I never meant to stay here this long. The plan was a few months, save some cash, move back north once the summer heat died down. But that was 2 years ago. Now, Station 14 feels less like a job and more like a sentence. The place sits right off Highway 89, about 20 minutes outside a town nobody remembers the name of. No street lights, no traffic after midnight. Just a rusted neon sign that hums over the pumps, and a stretch of desert that eats every sound before it hits the horizon. Most nights, I don't see a single car. It's just me, the buzzing lights, and the old radio in the corner that sometimes talks even when it's unplugged. I know every creak in this building, every flicker in the ceiling bulbs, and I know the one rule I never break, the one that keeps me company when nothing else does. I keep the lights on, always. Even after my shift ends, I leave them burning through the dawn. Once, I tried shutting them off, just once. And when I came back the next night, every bulb was shattered from the inside out. People joke that desert nights can drive a man crazy. They're right, in a way. You start to notice patterns, tiny things that seem harmless at first, like how the air conditioner hums in rhythm with your heartbeat, or how the receipt printer sometimes clicks at the exact moment the wind changes. That printer. That's where it all started. I remember the first time it turned on by itself. There was no one here, just me, sipping cold coffee behind the counter. Then came the grinding noise, paper slowly rolling out like it was breathing. It printed one line. Regular gas, $32.11. Customer name, Aiden Brooks. I laughed out loud, thought it was some glitch, maybe the old system autofilling the clerk's name. But the screen said paid. Not pending, not error. Paid. The thing is, I hadn't sold a drop of gas that night. I tore the paper off, tossed it aside, and figured that was the end of it. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. About how the air suddenly felt heavier after I read my name. About how, for a split second, the humming lights seemed to dim, like the station itself was holding its breath. Now I wait for that sound every night, the slow roll of paper, the name that shouldn't be there. Because I've learned something about this place. When the printer stops, someone out there doesn't make it to Station 14 alive. If there's one thing you learn working nights out here, it's that the world doesn't stop when you do. It just keeps moving somewhere else. The desert's quiet, but it's not dead. You can feel it breathing, out past the pumps, like something waiting to wake up. Most shifts start the same. I clock in, wipe the counter, refill the coffee machine that burns everything it touches, and check the pumps. There's always a fine layer of sand covering everything by the time the sun sets. You wipe it off, it comes back. Like the desert's marking what's hers. The radio usually hums some old country station. Same 3 songs, same static between them. When the signal fades, the silence feels too big, so I let it play no matter what it says. One night it mumbled through the static, "Keep the lights on, Aiden." I turned it off. Didn't help. The silence echoed the same words back. Customers are rare. Usually truckers coming off long hauls, faces burned by the sun, eyes like they're half in another world. They buy gas, cigarettes, sometimes coffee if they're desperate. None of them stay long. Not here. There's one guy, old-timer named Ross. Drives a silver Freightliner with a Jesus fish sticker on the back. Stops in every Thursday, like clockwork. He jokes I'm the only soul crazy enough to guard hell's doorstep. Last week, when I mentioned the printer acting up, he just grinned and said, "You keep that printer on, son. Things get strange when it's quiet." He didn't laugh when he said it. He just looked past me, toward the glow of the pumps, like he was remembering something. That night, I stayed after closing again. I told myself it was just to clean, but the truth is, I didn't want to go home. My apartment's in a complex behind a closed diner 10 miles up the road. Feels emptier than the station. Out there, no lights, no hum, just my own breathing. Sometimes I drive loops around the highway before sunrise, headlights carving tunnels through the dust. There's an exit that goes nowhere. Road signs covered in bullet holes, the asphalt cracked like old skin. Locals call it the devil's turn. If you drive it long enough, they say you end up back where you started, even if you never turn around. I don't believe in ghost stories. Not really. But lately, I've been thinking maybe looping back isn't always about roads. The receipt printer's old, dot matrix type, the kind you have to feed paper rolls into. The register it's wired to hasn't worked right since the early 2000s, but the printer never fails. Even when I unplug the cord, the power light still glows faint red, like it's running off something else. Last week, I tried to clean it. When I pulled the plug from the wall, the radio snapped on again, even though it hadn't worked in days. The voice was low, warped, almost like an echo inside my head. Paid yesterday. Paid tomorrow. I dropped the plug and the voice stopped. Just the wind pressing against the glass. When I turned around, a fresh receipt was waiting. No sale. No customer name. Just the words, "Keep it running." I don't tell anyone about these things anymore. People out here have a way of explaining everything with words like heat stroke or loneliness. They don't understand that sometimes the desert itself is listening. And when it hears you speak its name, it answers back. I try to convince myself it's all harmless, just quirks of old equipment. But last night, as I locked up, I noticed something off. The lights above pump 2 were flickering again, like always. But each blink matched the beeping of the receipt machine inside. Every pulse in perfect rhythm. It wasn't random. It was breathing. I should have gone home. Instead, I stood there, counting the flashes until the pattern stopped. The final blink lasted longer than the rest, and somewhere in the dark beyond the highway, I swear I heard the sound of paper tearing. It was a little after 2:30 in the morning when the printer woke up again. That slow, grinding churn cut through the hum of the lights like a cough in church. I froze halfway through pouring coffee. The smell burned. The pot had been empty for an hour. Paper rolled out in small jerks, the way it does when it's thinking. One line, then another. It said, "Regular gas, $48.10. Under the name field, it printed something strange. Trucker 472. No sale showed up on the register. No headlights outside. Just my reflection in the glass and the soft red glow of the power light. I watched it print the last period and stop. Nothing else moved. The air felt heavy, thick like hot tar. Something about that fake driver code made my stomach twist. No one uses those numbers anymore. I reached out, hesitated. Then I tore it straight off the roller. The sound was louder than it should have been, a clean rip that echoed all the way to the back freezer. Every bulb in the station flickered. The hum dropped to a low groan. For a second, I thought the power was going out, but the darkness never came. The lights just dimmed, like something was holding its breath with me. Then the printer whined again and spat a new receipt into my hand. The exact same one I'd just torn up. Ink identical, fold line already there. I laughed, but it came out dry. "Fine," I muttered. "You win." I left both copies on the counter and went outside to breathe. The desert smelled like rust and ozone. Somewhere far off, coyotes cried, too close together like they were counting. Wind dragged sand across the pavement in thin silver ribbons. Everything looked the same, except the light over pump 2. It wasn't flickering anymore. It was pulsing. Slow, even, in rhythm with my heartbeat. When I walked back inside, the receipts were gone. Half an hour later, a set of headlights rolled up the ramp. Old pickup, paint the color of dried blood, grill rattling like a jawbone. The driver climbed out, big guy, beard like burnt wire. He didn't look tired. He looked rehearsed. "Pump 2, he said. 4810, paid yesterday." My mouth went dry. That was the line on the paper, word for word. He handed me a crumpled slip. Same font, same smudge on the corner. Only this one had the timestamp from half an hour ago, the moment I'd torn mine. I looked down to the drawer. Empty. Both earlier copies had vanished. The man filled up in silence. When he finished, he gave a small nod, climbed back into the truck, and drove off toward the Devil's Turn. Taillights bled into the dark until there was nothing left but the hum of the sign. I stood there a long time, holding the new slip. The register blinked, paid in green. Then the screen went black. The next night, I told myself I'd ignore it. Let it print whatever it wanted. Around 3, the machine chirped again. Unleaded, $27.65. Name, K. Howard. I didn't touch it. At 3:30, a small sedan pulled in. The driver was a woman, maybe 30, hair tied back, badge on her sleeve that said Howard Transport. She smiled, exact same total, same tone in her voice when she said, "Paid yesterday." She even paused before yesterday, like she'd rehearsed it. That was when the pattern started. Every night, one receipt. Always 30 minutes ahead. Always right. By the 5th night, I stopped trying to deny it. I started saving them, stacking them under the register like evidence. When I compared the timestamps, every single one matched the minute the customer arrived. The desert doesn't keep time like the city does. No clocks, no schedules. But this machine did. It knew. I began to test it. I moved one receipt to the trash before the half-hour mark. That night, no one came. Next morning, the sheriff's cruiser pulled up. A wreck on the highway. Tanker flipped near the Devil's Turn. Driver's name? Kenneth Howard. He didn't make it. I opened the register. The printer light was off. For the first time, the station felt dead. Not quiet, but emptied out. I plugged the cord back in. It hummed once and printed a single line. Service restored. That was the night I stopped fighting it. The lights stayed steady, the hum returned, and the air felt breathable again. Somewhere deep down I understood. The receipts weren't warnings, they were maintenance. Every printed name was a part of keeping Station 14 alive, and I was just another cog turning the paper. Still, one thing scared me more than all the rest. Sometimes, just before the roll starts, the printer hesitates. A tiny pause, like it's thinking. Each time it does, I wonder whose name it's deciding on, and whether, one of these nights, it'll print mine again. I thought I could live with it. Just let the printer do what it wanted, keep my head down, take my paychecks, and pretend none of it meant anything. But that kind of pretending doesn't last long out here. The desert doesn't like lies. It strips them away, one grain at a time, until all that's left is what you really are. About a week passed. The same pattern, the same half-hour gap. Every night one name, always right. Then one evening the machine did something new. It printed 2 receipts. The first was normal. Premium gas, $56 even. Name, R. Collier. The second was blank, just white paper, the edge scorched slightly like it had touched a flame. I didn't know what to make of it, but I remembered the last time I ignored a sign, so I kept both. Half an hour later, a red truck pulled in. The driver called himself Rob Collier. Same face I'd seen before. He used to come by for coffee sometimes. He filled his tank, waved, and left. No second driver ever came. I still had that blank sheet under the counter, and somehow I knew exactly what it meant. Whoever that second one belonged to never made it this far. That was when I started writing things down. Every print, every time, every name. If it was trying to warn me, maybe I could learn its language. Maybe I could save someone. The next night it printed early, 3 o'clock instead of 3:30. The line read, Truck Stop Coffee, $2.10. Name, Officer J. Kellen. It was the first time I'd seen a badge number on one. I watched the clock. Half an hour passed. No one came. 40 minutes. Nothing. Then, at exactly 4:01, I saw headlights on the road. The cruiser slowed, turned in, and parked right at pump 2. I could see the reflection of the dash lights in the glass. The officer stepped out, adjusting his hat. He looked young, maybe mid-20s, but there was something in his eyes like he'd been awake for days. "Evening," he said. "You been here long?" "Couple hours," I told him. He glanced at the printer. "You folks still using those old machines? Thought they phased 'em out years ago." "Yeah," I said, "it just won't quit." He smiled a little. "Guess it's doing your job for you, huh?" He went to pay for gas, then stopped, staring down at the counter. There was another sheet sitting there. I hadn't seen it print. It just appeared. Same font, same spacing. Name, Officer J. Kellen. Amount, nothing. He squinted. "That's supposed to be me?" I swallowed hard. "Maybe. The printer's got a weird sense of humor." He chuckled once, too short to be real. Then he took the slip, folded it neatly, and tucked it into his pocket. 5 minutes later, he was gone. I watched his taillights disappear into the fog that had started to roll in from the desert. The next morning, his cruiser was found upside down on the Devil's Turn. The receipt from that night burned a small black mark into the counter where it had sat. After that, I stopped trying to save people. It felt like the station was punishing me for meddling. Still, I couldn't stop watching the printer. Each name felt like a confession, each total like a heartbeat. I'd started keeping a notebook beside the register. Times, amounts, initials. I noticed that the machine always skipped one night every 7 days. That gap scared me more than the printing itself. It felt like silence before a storm. One Sunday, nothing printed at all. No hum, no light, just quiet. I waited until almost dawn, then opened the drawer to check the paper roll. Fresh, full, untouched. For a moment, I thought maybe it was over. Then the radio turned itself on. Static hissed through the speakers like someone breathing too close to a phone. Through the noise, a voice whispered, "New shift, $0 even." The lights above me buzzed. The smell of hot plastic filled the air. And there it was. A new receipt sliding out, inch by inch. I didn't want to look, but I had to. It read, Aiden Brooks, amount, nothing. I tore it before it finished printing. The hum in the ceiling stopped dead. Every light in the building went black. For a few seconds, there was nothing but the wind outside and my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Then slowly, the bulbs began to flicker back on, one by one. The printer blinked red once and pushed out another sheet. Same name, same amount. The letters darker this time, like it was angry. I dropped it on the floor and backed away. The radio clicked off by itself. The sign outside still read "Open 24 hours," but half the letters had burned out, and the N was hanging by a thread of wire. I sat behind the counter until sunrise, watching the glow creep through the windows. The receipt with my name on it was still there, but the words had changed. It now said, "Paid yesterday." That's when I understood. The printer wasn't just predicting what's coming. It was balancing what's already been taken. And now, somehow, I owed it something back. I didn't sleep after that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the printer light blinking, waiting for me to read whatever came next. It felt less like a machine and more like something that had learned how to breathe. When I came back the following evening, the air already felt charged. The hum in the ceiling was slower, deeper, like a heart beating under the floor. I almost didn't want to plug it in, but the moment I reached for the switch, the printer powered itself. The roll started feeding before I even logged in. 2 words appeared, burned into the paper instead of printed. Maintenance overdue. Then it began printing a list. Dates, amounts, names, every customer for the past month. Except the final line wasn't a name. It was a time. 4:27 a.m. I looked up at the clock. 4:05. Whatever it was counting down to, it was coming soon. At 4:27 on the dot, the radio cracked alive with a single burst of static. Through the noise, a voice I knew whispered, soft and broken, "Don't let them pay." I dropped the mic. The cord hissed like a snake. Outside, a car rolled into the lot. Silver sedan, tinted windows, engine too quiet for the desert. Headlights stayed off. The printer spat another receipt. Unleaded, $23.50. Name, Aiden Brooks. It wasn't the same one as before. This one had a line underneath. Paid today. I stumbled back from the counter, the sedan door opened, and a man stepped out. He looked exactly like me. Same uniform, same posture, even the same scar across the left hand from when I dropped a coffee pot last year. He walked up slow, his shoes leaving no sound on the tile. I could hear the printer behind me whirring, spitting duplicates of the same slip over and over. My name, my amount, my time. "I think you've been taking my shift," he said. His voice was mine too, not echoing but layered, like a recording playing half a second late. I tried to speak, but the words wouldn't form. The other me leaned over the counter, eyes flat, glassy, and whispered, "Station 14 needs one attendant." The lights blinked once. He smiled faintly, then vanished. Not faded, gone. Like film cut between frames. I ran outside, gasping for air. The sky above was clear, but the horizon to the east shimmered like heat mirage. The highway was empty, no cars, no wind. When I looked back at the building, the open 24 hours sign had gone completely dark. Inside, the printer still worked, churning paper onto the floor. Each slip now read, "Shift filled." I gathered every one of them and stuffed them into a trash bag. The smell of toner was thick enough to sting my eyes. When I tried to burn the bag behind the dumpsters, the paper wouldn't catch. Flames slid across the surface like it was coated in glass. All I heard was a faint mechanical whisper from inside the bag. Service must continue. I left the bag there and started walking down the highway. I didn't even lock the door behind me, but I couldn't get far. The air ahead shimmered brighter, and before long, I realized I wasn't moving at all. Every step just brought me back to the edge of the lot. That's when the rules finally made sense, the ones the station had been teaching me all along. Rule 1. Never tear the paper before it finishes. Rule 2. Never ignore the print when it names you. Rule 3. Station 14 must never close. I had broken all three, and now the desert wasn't letting me leave. When I turned around, the pumps had lit themselves again, each one glowing that same sick red pulse, steady as a heartbeat. The printer inside started feeding another roll, the sound drifting out through the door like breathing. The receipt fluttered out onto the counter. Even from where I stood, I could read the top line. New shift assigned. Then my name. Then below that, another name I didn't recognize. Kellen J. I laughed. Couldn't help it. Somewhere out there, that poor kid, the officer from before, was getting the same slip. The machine had just replaced me with him. I stood there under the buzzing sign, watching the desert try to remember how to move again. It never did. Neither did I. The light over pump 2 brightened, and in it, I saw my own reflection staring back from the glass door. Same uniform, same tired eyes, same little smile that wasn't really a smile at all. I walked back inside, sat down behind the counter, and waited for the hum to settle. When it did, the printer printed one last line. Welcome back, attendant. Maybe this was what the others felt before they vanished. Maybe we all end up as echoes inside this place. Names printed on endless rolls, keeping the lights alive so the desert doesn't swallow it whole. The clock read 5:02 a.m. Shift change. And for the first time, I didn't bother to check the time left, because I already knew the next name on the list would be mine. It's been hard to tell how long I've been here now. Days, weeks, maybe more. The clocks still tick, but they don't mean anything anymore. They just mark the seconds between one hum and the next. The printer runs smoother these days. No jams, no pauses. It almost sounds content, like it knows I've stopped fighting. I print, I refill, I clean the counters. When the morning comes, I sit by the window and watch the horizon not move. Sometimes I see shapes walking the highway. They look like travelers, but they never reach the pumps. When I blink, they're gone. Maybe they're the ones who didn't make it. The people whose receipts never printed right. I used to count how many sheets came out each night. Now I don't bother. Every name feels familiar somehow. Sometimes I even remember their faces before I see them. It's like the machine shows me who they were, and for a few minutes, I get to feel what they felt. Last night it printed one that stopped me cold. Diesel fuel, $60 even. Name, Rob Collier. He'd been gone for weeks. I thought the desert took him. But when I looked up, I saw his red truck pulling in again, just like before. Same headlights, same broken grill, same half smile that doesn't quite reach his eyes. He waved through the glass, paid, and left down the same road. The difference was the receipt. It didn't say, paid yesterday. It said, paid again. That's when I understood what the printer had been doing all along. It wasn't predicting. It was recycling. All those names, all those lives, they weren't customers anymore. They were attendants, temporary keepers like me. I started checking the rolls from the older nights, the ones I'd stuffed in drawers and under the counter. Every few sheets, my name shows up again, over and over. Sometimes at the top, sometimes at the bottom. Sometimes right beside another name, like it's pairing us up. Maybe that's how this place survives. A chain of attendants, each one paying for the last. No one quits. No one leaves. We just rotate. At sunrise today, the printer went quiet. No hum, no heat. I thought maybe it was over. Then I noticed the roll wasn't empty, just waiting. The screen blinked once, and the words appeared line by line. Shift complete. Next attendant scheduled. I stared at it for a long time. The air smelled like ozone again, like the first night all this started. I looked outside, and sure enough, there was a truck coming down the road, bright headlights, dust rising behind it. Brand new tires. Someone else on their way to fill up for the first time. I don't know who they are yet, but I already know what the printer will say. It'll print their name and then mine, side by side. One fading out, one coming in. So if you ever find yourself driving through Arizona and you see an old gas station off Highway 14 with a light still working when everything else around looks dead, do yourself a favor. Keep driving. Because if you stop here and the printer knows your name, it means my shift's finally over. And yours is about to begin.